There's a level of mental fortitude that makes you untouchable. And today, you'll discover how ancient Japanese warriors developed it 600 years ago, and how you can build the same thing starting right now. Have you ever met someone who never complains? Who faces rejection without flinching? Who handles criticism without defending themselves? Who walks into any room with complete confidence? While everyone else is making excuses for why they can't, while everyone else crumbles under pressure, this person stands firm. And you know what people say? They're just lucky. They don't have the problems I have. They were born different. But what most people refuse to accept is that there's a brutal price to pay for this kind of strength. Most people see the price and turn away. They want the result without the sacrifice. However, there was a group of warriors in feudal Japan called the samurai, who developed a training system so effective that it transformed ordinary men into legends who couldn't be broken. If you follow this channel, you know I'm obsessed with Japanese warrior philosophy. And today I'm going to show you their secret. Not the techniques they used in battle, but the internal system they used to forge minds that fear couldn't penetrate. Before one of these warriors died, he revealed the complete method in a single word: Fudoshin, the immovable mind, the mind that cannot be disturbed by anything. And within this concept lies the exact blueprint for how to become someone that nothing can shake. But there's a catch. This method isn't about positive thinking. It's not about affirmations or visualization, it's about exposure. These warriors didn't build mental armor by avoiding difficulty. They built it by deliberately seeking the exact things that terrified them most. Before I show you exactly how this system works, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment, what's the one thing that consistently breaks your composure? This really helps the channel reach more people. Plus, I enjoy reading all the comments and interacting with you. Thank you very much for your attention. Back to the video. The breaking point. The story I'm going to tell you today begins with a woman named Sophia, 28 years old, marketing manager, living in a big city, ambitious, smart, hard-working, but Sophia had a problem that was destroying her from the inside. She was fragile, not physically, mentally. Every criticism from her boss felt like a personal attack. Every difficult conversation made her stomach turn. Every conflict made her want to disappear. She'd lie awake at night replaying arguments, thinking of what she should have said, torturing herself with scenarios that would never happen. The pattern was always the same. Something would upset her, she'd lose her emotional balance, and it would take days to recover. A harsh email from a client would ruin her entire week. A passive-aggressive comment from a coworker would loop in her mind for hours. She was constantly reacting, constantly defending, constantly exhausted. And it wasn't just at work. In her relationship, she couldn't handle disagreement. Every time her boyfriend criticized something, she'd either shut down completely or explode in anger. There was no middle ground. She was either a victim or a tyrant, never someone who could simply stay calm and address the issue. Sophia's friends started avoiding difficult conversations with her. "You're too sensitive," they'd say. "You take everything personally." And they were right. She did. Because she had no emotional armor. Every word could penetrate. Every situation could destabilize her. Then one day, something happened that changed everything. Sophia was in a meeting presenting a project she'd worked on for 3 months. Her boss interrupted her halfway through and said in front of everyone, "This is completely off target. Did you even read the brief?" The room went silent. Sophia felt her face burning. Her hands started shaking. Her throat closed up. She couldn't speak. She couldn't think. She just stood there, frozen, while everyone stared. She left the meeting, went to the bathroom, and cried for 20 minutes. When she came out, she made a decision. She was done being this person. Done being someone that a single comment could destroy. Done being fragile. That night, she started researching. How do you build mental toughness? How do you become unbreakable? That's when she discovered the samurai concept of Fudoshin, the principle of deliberate discomfort. The first thing Sophia learned about Fudoshin completely contradicted everything she'd been told about mental health. Modern psychology says, avoid your triggers, create safe spaces, protect your peace. The samurai said the opposite. Seek discomfort. Expose yourself to what you fear, train where it hurts most. She read about how samurai would meditate under freezing waterfalls, how they would sit in zazen for hours until their legs went numb and their minds screamed to move, how they would deliberately put themselves in situations that tested their composure. The philosophy was simple and brutal. You cannot build armor without being hit. You cannot develop emotional resilience by avoiding emotional challenge. Every time you run from discomfort, you're training yourself to be weaker. Every time you face it, you're training yourself to be stronger. Sophia realized she'd spent years doing the opposite. Every time something made her uncomfortable, she avoided it. Difficult conversation? She'd send an email instead. Conflict? She'd withdraw. Criticism? She'd get defensive immediately. She'd been training herself to be fragile without realizing it, so she decided to do what the samurai did. She started seeking the exact situations that broke her composure. It started with something small but terrifying. Every morning before work, she would record a video of herself speaking. Just 60 seconds. Then, she'd watch it back. This sounds easy, but for Sophia it was torture. She hated seeing herself on camera, hated hearing her voice. Every video made her cringe. But she did it anyway. Day 1, she could barely get through watching herself. Day 5, she noticed her vocal tics. Day 10, she started seeing patterns in how she avoided eye contact. Day 20, she could watch herself without that visceral discomfort. Something was changing. The emotional charge was decreasing. It's not that she suddenly loved seeing herself on camera, it's that the discomfort no longer controlled her. She'd exposed herself to it so many times that it lost its power. This is the first principle of Fudoshin. Repeated exposure to discomfort rewires your nervous system. What once triggered panic becomes neutral, not through avoidance, but through confrontation. Misogi, the practice of purification. By day 30, Sophia was ready for something harder. She'd read about an ancient samurai practice called misogi. Originally, it was a purification ritual involving standing under ice-cold waterfalls. But the physical act was just a vehicle. The real practice was learning to maintain composure under extreme physical stress. Sophia didn't have access to a waterfall, but she had a shower, so she created her own version. Every morning, after her normal warm shower, she'd turn the water to completely cold, and she'd stay there for 3 minutes. The first time was absolute hell. Her body went into shock. Every instinct screamed to jump out. Her breath became rapid and shallow. Her mind went into panic mode. She lasted 15 seconds. But she remembered what she'd read about the samurai. The practice isn't about comfort. It's about training your mind to remain calm when your body is in distress. So the next day, she tried again. 20 seconds, then 30, then 45. By week 2, something extraordinary happened. Sophia was under the cold water and she noticed her breathing. It was calm, slow, deep. Her body was experiencing extreme cold, but her mind wasn't panicking. She'd separated the physical sensation from the mental reaction. This is what the samurai called kokoro, the unified mind-heart, the ability to experience discomfort in the body without creating suffering in the mind. They understood something that modern people have forgotten. Physical hardship is the fastest way to build mental fortitude. A neuroscientist at Tokyo University who studies stress response explains, when you voluntarily expose yourself to controlled stressors like cold exposure, you're training your autonomic nervous system. Over time, your baseline stress response decreases. What once activated your fight or flight system now barely registers. Sophia started noticing this in her daily life. A harsh email from her boss? She'd feel the initial spike of adrenaline, then it would pass. A difficult conversation? Her heart would race for a moment, then settle. The situations hadn't changed, but her nervous system was learning that discomfort isn't danger. Keita, the immovable form. But Sophia had a problem. She was getting better at handling discomfort when she was alone. Cold showers, watching herself on video, pushing through physical challenges. But the moment someone criticized her, attacked her, or put her on the spot, she'd still crumble. That's when she discovered the samurai concept of kata, literally form or pattern. The samurai would practice specific responses to specific attacks thousands of times until the response became automatic. When an opponent struck, they didn't think about how to defend. The defense happened automatically because it had been programmed through repetition. Sophia realized she needed to do the same thing with emotional attacks. She needed to program automatic responses so she wouldn't freeze or explode when someone came at her verbally. She created what she called her emotional kata, 5 standard responses to 5 common situations that triggered her. When criticized, thank you for the feedback. Let me think about that and get back to you. When attacked personally, I hear that you're upset. What specifically needs to change? When interrupted, complete silence. Let them finish. Then continue without acknowledging the interruption. When blamed unfairly, I see it differently. Here's my perspective. Then state facts without defending. When pressured to decide immediately, I need time to consider this properly. I'll have an answer by specific time. These weren't just phrases, they were emotional kata, pre-programmed responses that would activate automatically under stress. But just like a samurai practicing sword forms, she had to practice them thousands of times. Every day, Sophia would rehearse these responses out loud, in the mirror, in the car, walking to work. She'd imagine the worst-case scenarios and practice responding with her kata. It felt ridiculous at first, talking to herself, role-playing conversations that hadn't happened. But then came the test. Week 8. Her boss called her into his office and said, "The client hated your presentation. They said it was amateur work and they're considering pulling their contract." The old Sophia would have panicked, would have stammered excuses, would have felt her composure shatter. But something different happened. Her kata activated automatically. "Thank you for telling me. What specifically did they object to?" Her voice was calm. Her hands weren't shaking. She wasn't defending. She was just responding. Her boss looked surprised. He'd expected her to crumble like always. Instead, she was steady. This is the power of kata. When you've programmed your responses through repetition, you don't have to think under pressure. You just execute. Shugyo, the severe training. By day 90, Sophia had made real progress. The cold showers, the video practice, the emotional kata. She was more stable than she'd ever been. But she knew something was still missing. She was handling normal stress better, but she hadn't truly tested herself under extreme conditions. She read about Shugyo, the samurai tradition of severe training. These weren't normal practices. These were deliberately brutal experiences designed to break you so you could rebuild stronger. Samurai would go days without food, would train for 1-2 hours straight, would put themselves in situations where failure meant death. Sophia couldn't do anything that extreme, but she could create her own version of Shugyo. She decided to do something that terrified her more than anything else: public speaking. She signed up for a local storytelling event where people get on stage and share personal stories in front of 100 strangers. No slides, no notes, just you and a microphone for 5 minutes. For Sophia, this was the ultimate test. Everything she feared combined into one experience: being watched, being judged, being vulnerable, having nowhere to hide. The first time she tried to prepare, she had a panic attack. Just imagining herself on that stage made her heart race and her palms sweat. Every part of her wanted to cancel, to make an excuse, to run away. But she remembered the samurai principle. The thing you most want to avoid is exactly the thing you most need to face. So she didn't cancel. She prepared, but not the way most people prepare for a speech. She didn't memorize every word. She didn't practice until it was perfect. Instead, she did something the samurai would do. She deliberately practiced failing. She'd stand in her living room and intentionally mess up her story. She'd practice forgetting her words. She'd practice standing in awkward silence. She'd practice every worst-case scenario until none of them triggered panic anymore. The night of the event came. Sophia's name was called. She walked on stage, 100 faces staring at her, the lights in her eyes, the microphone in her hand. And something incredible happened. She felt the fear, the adrenaline, the instinct to run, but she didn't react to it. She spoke. About 2 minutes in, she forgot her next line. Complete blank. In the past, this would have destroyed her. but she'd practiced this exact moment. She stood in silence for 3 seconds, smiled, said, "Give me a moment," then continued. The audience didn't care. Actually, they connected more because of it. Real, human, imperfect but unbroken. When she finished, people came up to her and said, "You were so calm up there, so confident." They had no idea she'd been terrified. But terror without reaction looks like confidence from the outside. This is what Shugyo teaches. You don't eliminate fear, you learn to perform with fear present. The samurai weren't fearless. They were trained to act despite fear, which is completely different. Zanshin, permanent vigilance. But Sophia made a mistake that almost destroyed all her progress. After the speech success, she relaxed completely. She'd won the battle, so she dropped her guard. She stopped doing cold showers every day. She stopped practicing her kata. She stopped deliberately seeking discomfort. For 2 weeks, she coasted on her previous gains. Then one day, her boyfriend said something critical, and she exploded in anger. Just like the old days, all that composure she'd built seemed to evaporate in seconds. She was devastated. Had she lost everything she'd worked for? That's when she learned about Zanshin, the samurai concept of sustained awareness. Zanshin literally means remaining mind, the mind that remains alert even after the battle is won. Samurai knew that more warriors died after victory than during battle because they let their guard down. Sophia realized she'd done exactly that. She'd treated mental toughness like a goal to achieve rather than a practice to maintain. The moment she stopped practicing, the gains started reversing. It's like muscle. Stop training and it atrophies. She read about how samurai maintained Zanshin throughout their entire lives. They never stopped training, even in times of peace, even in old age, because they understood that mental armor requires constant maintenance or it rusts. So, Sophia made a new commitment. This wasn't a 90-day challenge. This was a lifetime practice. The cold showers weren't something you do until you're fixed. They're something you do forever because maintaining resilience requires constant stimulus. She created what she called her non-negotiables. 3 practices that would happen every single day regardless of circumstances. Morning, 3-minute cold shower, afternoon. Record and watch a 60-second video. Evening, practice emotional kata for 5 minutes, no exceptions. No, I'm too tired or I don't feel like it. Because the samurai understood something crucial. Discipline is maintaining, practice especially when you don't want to. The transformation was immediate. Within a week of reinstating her daily practices, her composure returned. But more than that, she understood something deeper. She'd never be done. There is no finish line where you become permanently unbreakable. There's only the practice. And as long as you maintain the practice, you maintain the strength. Fudoshin, the immovable mind. 6 months into her training, something shifted in Sophia that she couldn't quite explain. She wasn't just handling difficult situations better. She was becoming someone different fundamentally. People at work started noticing. "You never get rattled anymore," her co-worker said. "Nothing seems to bother you." Her boss, the same one who used to make her cry, started treating her with more respect. Not because she'd confronted him, but because her presence had changed. When you stop reacting to provocation, you stop being an easy target. People who push others are looking for a reaction. When they don't get one, they move on. Sophia had become what the samurai called like a mountain. Solid, immovable, there but unaffected. But the real test came on day 187. Sophia's company announced layoffs. 30% of the staff would be cut. The office became a chaos of fear and politics. People were panicking, spreading rumors, trying to make others look bad to save themselves. Sophia's old pattern would have sent her into terror mode. Sleepless nights, constant worry, frantically trying to prove her worth. But something different happened this time. She felt the initial fear, recognized it, and then watched it pass through her like wind through a tree. The tree moves with the wind, but it doesn't uproot. That's Fudoshin. The immovable mind doesn't mean you don't feel. It means feelings don't move you from your center. Sophia continued her work exactly as before. Same quality, same standards, same composure. While everyone around her was in chaos, she was steady. and that steadiness was visible. When the layoffs were announced, Sophia's entire team was let go except her. Her boss explained, "Everyone else was too focused on survival to do good work. You were the only one who stayed professional through the chaos." This is what mental armor actually looks like. It's not about never feeling fear or stress. It's about feeling those things and remaining functional anyway. The samurai weren't emotionless. They were trained to function optimally, regardless of emotional state. A Harvard psychologist who studies resilience explains, "The difference between people who thrive under pressure and those who collapse isn't the absence of stress. It's the relationship with stress." Elite performers have rewired their nervous system to interpret stress signals as preparation rather than threat. Sophia had done exactly that. 6 months of deliberate discomfort had rewired her nervous system. What used to trigger panic now triggered focus. Her body still produced adrenaline under stress, but instead of shutting down, she became more present. Mushotoku, no gaining idea. But something unexpected started happening around month 8. People started avoiding Sophia. Not because she was aggressive or mean. Actually, the opposite. She was calm, helpful, professional, but her presence made people uncomfortable. Her co-workers stopped complaining around her. Her friends stopped gossiping. Even her boyfriend started getting defensive. "You act like nothing bothers you," he said. "It's not normal." And he was right. It wasn't normal. Most people live in constant reaction, constant emotional turbulence. When you stop doing that, you become a mirror. People look at you and see everything they're not, and that's threatening. Sophia learned about Mushotoku, a Zen concept that samurai embraced. It means no gaining idea, the practice of doing something without attachment to the outcome. You train not to get somewhere. You train because training is what you do. She realized she'd been unconsciously using her progress as a way to feel superior. "Look at how composed I am. Look at how I don't react." This was ego, and ego is a weakness. The samurai knew that the moment you become proud of your strength, you've created a new vulnerability. So Sophia did something counterintuitive. She stopped tracking progress. She stopped looking for validation. She stopped posting about her cold showers or her challenges. She removed all external metrics of success. The practice continued, but now without ego. She did cold showers not because they made her tough, but because they were part of her daily practice. She practiced emotional kata not to win arguments, but because that's what she did. No gaining idea, no attachment to outcome. And paradoxically, this made her even stronger, because now there was nothing to defend, no identity to protect, no image to maintain. She just was. People found this even more unsettling. She didn't need their approval. She didn't need their validation. She didn't need anything from them. And that independence was magnetic and threatening simultaneously. The mirror principle. 1 year into her training, Sophia's life looked completely different from the outside. She'd been promoted twice. Her relationship was more stable. She'd spoken at 3 more events, but the biggest changes were internal and invisible. She developed what the samurai called Heijo Shin, a mind that remains normal regardless of circumstances. Not happy all the time, not emotionless, just stable, responsive rather than reactive. But she noticed something that ancient warriors had warned about. The stronger she became mentally, the more she saw weakness in others, and this created a problem. She started feeling impatient with people who couldn't handle basic stress, frustrated with people who made excuses, judgmental of people who quit when things got hard. She'd become what she used to hate, someone who looked down on others for not being strong enough. This is the trap that destroys many people who develop real mental toughness. They become arrogant, dismissive. They forget they were once weak too. Sophia read about how the greatest samurai were also the most compassionate, not because they were soft, but because they remembered the path. They remembered how hard it was to build strength. They remembered that everyone is at exactly the stage they're supposed to be at. This is what's called the mirror principle. When you develop real strength, you become a mirror for others. Some will see their potential reflected in you and feel inspired. Others will see their weakness reflected in you and feel threatened. Neither reaction is about you, it's about them. Sophia learned to hold her strength without flaunting it. to be helpful without being preachy, to be an example without being judgmental. This is the highest level of Fudoshin, every B, strength that doesn't need to prove itself. She started mentoring younger people at work, not by telling them to be tougher, but by sharing her practices when they asked. She'd tell them about cold showers, about emotional kata, about deliberate discomfort. Some tried it. Most didn't, and she was okay with both. Because she'd learned the final lesson of the warrior path. You can only save yourself. You can show others the way, but you cannot walk it for them. Everyone must build their own armor through their own exposure to hardship. The price of armor. 18 months after starting her journey, Sophia was unrecognizable from the woman who'd cried in the bathroom after a meeting. She'd developed genuine mental armor, but she'd also learned something that nobody talks about. Mental toughness has a price, and that price is loneliness. When you stop complaining, you realize how much social bonding happens through shared complaining. When you stop reacting emotionally, you realize how much connection happens through emotional drama. When you stop seeking validation, you realize how many relationships were based on mutual neediness. Sophia's old friends stopped inviting her out, not because she'd changed in a bad way, but because she no longer participated in the rituals that held the group together. The complaining about work, the gossiping about others, the collective victimhood. Her family started making comments. "You've become cold. You're not fun anymore. You take everything so seriously." What they meant was, "You're not playing your old role. You're not the person we could rely on to be fragile, so we don't have to examine our own fragility." This is the part nobody tells you about building real strength. You don't just change. Your entire social ecosystem has to reorganize around the new you. And some people won't make the transition. Some relationships will fall away, and that's the price. The samurai understood this. They lived apart from regular society. Not because they thought they were better, but because their way of life was incompatible with normal civilian life. When you train yourself to face death without fear, you can't relate to people who panic about minor inconveniences. Sophia had to make peace with this. She lost some friends. Her relationship with her family became more distant, but she gained something more valuable: self-reliance. She no longer needed others to regulate her emotions. She no longer needed constant validation. She could stand alone. This is what the samurai called tanrin, the forging process. Like steel heated and hammered repeatedly, you become harder, stronger, but also more isolated, because most people are still soft metal, and soft metal can't relate to forged steel. The eternal practice. 2 years into her journey, Sophia realized something profound. She'd started this thinking there would be an end point, a day when she'd be done and could relax. But that day never came, and it never would. The samurai had a saying, "Training is a lifelong path. There is no mastery, only practice. There is no arrival, only the journey. The moment you think you've arrived is the moment you start deteriorating." Sophia saw this in herself. Any week she got lazy with her practices, she'd feel her mental armor thinning. The composure would decrease. The reactions would increase. The armor required constant maintenance, or it would rust. But something had shifted in how she related to this truth. At first, it was disappointing. "You mean I have to do this forever?" But now, she understood. The practice was the point. The daily cold shower, the emotional kata, the deliberate discomfort. These weren't methods to achieve something. They were the something. This is what the samurai called Shugyo no Michi, the way of austere training. The path itself is the destination. You're not training to become enlightened in the future. Training itself is the enlightened state. You're not practicing to become strong later. Practicing is what strength looks like. Sophia had become someone for whom challenge was normal. Discomfort was expected. Difficulty was welcome. Not because she was masochistic, but because she understood that these things were the fire that kept her steel tempered. She created a life where every day contained some element of deliberate hardship. Some days it was physical, cold exposure, hard workouts, fasting. Some days it was mental, difficult conversations, public speaking, facing fears. But there was always something, because she'd learned the ultimate lesson: Comfort is the enemy of capacity. Every day you spend comfortable is a day you spend getting weaker. Not dramatically, just incrementally. But those increments compound. The samurai trained daily not because they might face battle tomorrow, but because today's training maintained yesterday's strength. The moment training stops, decay begins. This is true for muscles. It's true for skills. And it's especially true for mental toughness. The ultimate truth. People would ask Sophia, "How did you become so strong?" She'd smile and say, "I'm not strong. I just practice being uncomfortable every day." This confused them. They wanted to believe she had some special gift, some genetic advantage, some lucky circumstance. Because if she was just like them, then they'd have to admit they could do it too. And that admission is terrifying because it removes all excuses. The truth about Fudoshin, about mental armor, about becoming unbreakable, is devastatingly simple. It's not complicated. It's not mystical. It's just consistently doing things that are uncomfortable until you rewire your nervous system. The samurai didn't have secret techniques. They had disciplined practice. They didn't have magic formulas. They had daily exposure to hardship. They didn't have shortcuts. They had decades of training. Miyamoto Musashi won 60 duels not because he was born special. He won because he trained obsessively from age 13 until his death. That's 50 years of daily practice. 50 years of deliberate discomfort. 50 years of facing exactly what scared him most. You have access to the same process. Cold showers, emotional kata, deliberate exposure to fear, public speaking, hard conversations, physical challenges. These aren't secrets. They're available to everyone. The difference between Sophia and the old her wasn't access to information. It was willingness to practice. And that's what separates people who develop real mental toughness from people who just talk about it. Willingness. Willingness to be uncomfortable. Willingness to look stupid while learning. Willingness to fail repeatedly. Willingness to maintain practice when no one's watching. Sophia's final realization came 2.5 years into her journey. She was doing her morning cold shower, and she noticed something. She wasn't thinking about how much time was left. She wasn't counting down. She wasn't in discomfort hoping for it to end. She was just there, present, calm. The cold water was just cold water. No story about it, no resistance to it. This is the ultimate level of Fudoshin. Not that nothing bothers you, but that you're not bothered by being bothered. You can feel discomfort without suffering from the discomfort. You can experience fear without being controlled by fear. You can face difficulty without creating drama about the difficulty. This is what makes you untouchable. Not the absence of challenge, but the absence of internal resistance to challenge. Life will always bring storms. The question is whether those storms move you from your center, or whether you remain like the mountain, affected on the surface but unmoved at the core. The question is not whether this method works. The samurai proved it works over centuries. The question is whether you're willing to pay the price. The price is daily discomfort. The price is doing things that scare you when you'd rather be comfortable. The price is maintaining practice when motivation is gone. The price is becoming someone your old friends might not recognize. But what you get in return is priceless. You get to move through life untouchable. You get to face anything without breaking. You get to become the person who makes others ask, how are they so calm? How do they handle so much? If you enjoyed this video, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, and leave a like. And tell me in the comments, what's the first uncomfortable practice you'll start today? What's the fear you'll face instead of avoiding? Remember, mental armor isn't built in comfort. It's forged in the fire of deliberate hardship. If you've made it this far, thank you very much for your attention. Now go do something that scares you. See you in the next video.